They did not know the Lord. Guys, here is a reality that is difficult to have to admit, is that not everybody that is serving in the house of God knows God. Here you have Hophni and Phinehas, the sons of Eli the priest, right? And they're serving in the house of God. And clearly, 1 Samuel 2 verse 12 says, they don't even know him. They don't even know him. And so because they don't know him, you can see why they would treat people the way they do. Right? Why do they treat people with the way they're treating people? Is because they don't know him. Right? So I mean, you can kind of see that. That's why they would do that. You could see how they would take advantage of people, right? Abuse people, and be forceful with people, and those kinds of things. Man, we can understand that because they're not intimate with God. They don't know God. They don't have a relationship with God, and yet they're serving in the house of God. Maybe you've come across people like that, man, right? In the house of God. Maybe you've been hurt, man. You've been burned by people who were serving in the house of God and they didn't even know him. That's a tragedy, man. I don't like that. But listen, I want to speak on this on another side, on another vein. And it's that sometimes there are people in the house of God that, they're in there, they're serving, they have a relationship with God. But they're not allowing the fact that they know God and have a relationship with God, they're not allowing it to affect how they treat other people. And again, that's a reality that we hate to admit. If you and I claim to know God, then it should affect how we treat other people. We can't be coming off selfish. We can't be coming off with a forceful attitude on people like you see, Hophni and Phinehas doing here in 1 Samuel 2. Man, we can't be doing that if we're claiming to know God. Because what that does, man, is that is a misrepresentation of God. And what happens when we misrepresent God is that people are stumbled by that. And when you read through this story, it got to the point where these people began to hate the offerings of the Lord. They began to hate it. And if you can kind of equate that to today, man, I know of people, I've talked to people personally that now hate going to church because they had a experience or an encounter with someone who claimed to know God, but man, they were mean-spirited, they were selfish, they had a very forceful attitude, give me and I'll take kind of an attitude. And man, it just burned them. It burned them out, man. It burned them out. So beloved, man, let's really watch ourselves, man. If we're claiming to be people who know God, man, let's not be these Hophni and Phinehas type people, right, who burn people out. Because man, when you finish reading the rest of this section here, man, you find out that, man, God really hated that. God saw it as a sin against himself. If you read further on in the chapter, he saw it as sin against himself, man, and God was very displeased. He ended up taking out Hophni and Phinehas, took them out in one day, both of them. But listen, this is what God's desiring. God says if we honor him, he will honor us, right? And the way that we honor him is by knowing him and treating other people with respect, treating other people with love. We're not takers, right, man? We're givers, man. We're giving ourselves away. Hophni and Phinehas, man, they were takers, man. They were takers. We honor God by knowing him and treating his people with respect. And then later on in the chapter, God says, I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who shall do according to all my word and all my mind. That's what God says. And listen, that's what God's looking for. God's looking for people, faithful people, who will do all that is in his heart, who will do all that is in his mind. And God says if we will be those kinds of people, man, then he's going to take care of business on our behalf. And so, beloved, this has just been real talk, and this is what I came across in my devotion this morning as I meditated here on 1 Samuel 2. And it's a sad reality that there are people who are serving in the house of God who don't even know him. And also there are people who are serving in the house of God that do know him, but unfortunately they can mistreat people sometimes. Beloved, let's not misrepresent. Let's represent him well. Let's represent the Lord like he deserves to be represented, with love, right, with respect. Let's be the heart and hands extended, right, from God to people. All right, man, don't forget, the Lord loves you. I love you. Thank you for those of you that have been praying for me, fighting through this little cold thing. Man, I appreciate y'all. And I hope you'll have a great Wednesday. If you're not doing anything tonight, join us at Calvary Chapel Toppenish as we continue our study through the Old Testament, Nehemiah chapter 9 through 11. If you can't come, log on, Facebook Live, YouTube Live will be there at 7 o'clock. So, man, salute in Jesus' mighty name. Stay at it, y'all. God bless.